Simple, que entrenen fuerte y que se... Simple, que entrenen fuerte y que no tengan miedo, no se preocupen. Como iremos en Cuba, poniendo el parche de que caiga la botera. Para en todo caso que pierdan, no, hay que hacerle prueba de doping, hay que hacerle prueba de esto. Si gano, no ganeo porque soy el mejor. O sea, son estrategias que ya están pasadas de moda, pero bueno.
David Morrell isn't buying Benavidez's PED excuses, saying there's no room for distractions in the ring. He's focused and ready to prove himself. Boxing trainer Robert Garcia thinks the Benavidez versus Morrell fight will be exciting. He acknowledges Morrell as a serious threat despite his lack of experience, but favors Benavidez because of his greater experience. Garcia is excited the fight is happening now, with both fighters in their prime.
It's not even marinated yet, you know, but they're two monsters, like monsters, you know what I mean?
If the Canelo fight's not there, then that's the fight that I would like to see. Definitely, 100%.
With Bennovitz, right? The knock on him, what they try saying is, well, he hasn't beat no one. He's bigger than everybody, and that's why he wins, right? That's what they say. Morrell's bigger than David.
Yeah,
I tell people, don't believe that 6'1" stuff that they say on Boxer. He's a legit 6'3".
It'll just be a great fight back because Morel has great power, great. You know, he's hungry. He wants to be huge in boxing. So I really think it'll make it a good fight. I still pick Benavidez.
Calvin Henderson talks about the pressure fighters face from promoters to perform, even if it pushes their bodies too hard. He says promoters don't care about health, just the money. This makes fighters feel they have to do whatever it takes to stay on top, even if it means using PEDs or risking long-term damage.
I don't know many fighters who were drinking or eating anything for this step on the scale. They was that confident in cutting weight and being that big and that strong. They were drinking Gatorade before they even stepped on the scale. Something a little fishy, man. You know what I mean? Something fishy. And the fighters know that. You know what I mean? It's hard for that to put out there into the air, but fighters know that you're really fasting.
Calvin talks about PEDs in boxing. He points out that some fighters aren't just using drugs to get bigger or stronger, but mainly to recover faster. With better recovery, they can train more and harder. It's not as obvious as bulking up, but it gives a real edge. Calvin highlights how boxing doesn't really crack down on this issue, which makes the sport less fair and messes with its integrity.
We got to order the test, so don't worry about it. I said, bullfucking shit. Now I am worried about it. I said, no, we got to get drug tested. He said, okay, well, the best we can do is order it now and be ready for you after the fight. I said, bet, all right, let's do that. After the fight, guess what? Still no drug test, nothing.
You're kidding me. Santos said this is the same exact story.
Bob Santos recognizes David Benavidez's impressive skills and versatility. However, he strongly believes that Morel has the potential to stand out and could even be the next Roy Jones Jr., potentially redefining the sport.
You never want to try to compare people too much because sometimes, LeBron James is going to be the next Michael Jordan, so on and so forth. And maybe I'm guilty of that too because I was like, David Morrell is going to be another Roy Jones Jr., right? But I do believe that. I think he's a superior talent. I think he's head and shoulders above everybody else. I think David Benavidez is a tremendous fighter. I mean, the first time I ever seen him and he was working out and I was fortunate enough to be around him and his father while they were training and be brought into one of his camps. I was like, wow, this guy's like a savant. He could just do everything.
Former boxer Paulie Malignaggi believes David Benavidez and Morel should fight at 168 pounds instead of 175 pounds to keep pressure on Canelo Alvarez. He thinks both fighters should first warm up at 175 before taking on the top fighters in that division, Bivol and Beterbiev.
It's a matchup that's solid. The weight class that happens, that really matters to me. If are they going to stay at 175? I think if they're going to fight each other, they might as well make it at 168 and keep their foot on Canelo's neck, and make it more obvious that he's ducking either one of them. If they make the fight at 175, it has less luster. It's still a good fight. To be honest, I think both guys could probably use one or two more fights at 175 before they take on the winner of that monster fight between Beterbiev and Beville.
Teddy Atlas explains why the Benavidez versus Morel fight is interesting and risky for both. Both are undefeated with strong amateur backgrounds. Morel comes from the Cuban national team and has had a quick rise, winning a world title in just a few pro fights.
Very dangerous fight. Both of them were terrific amateurs, undefeated as pros. I mean, Morel comes from the legendary Cuban national team. In the Olympics, everything else. He won a world title. in a short period of time, like only a few special fighters have.
Teddy points out that both Benavidez and Morel are taking a big risk. They could wait for easier, bigger fights, but they're choosing to face each other. Teddy thinks not many fighters would do that at this stage, but both are stepping up and showing they're willing to take on tough challenges.
That have the future in front of them in their career, and they're taking a risk. They're both taking a big risk. That's what, for me, that's what makes this fight so special. Their talents, their undefeated records, what's at stake, right? All of that. But that they're taking a risk when a lot of the fighters wouldn't. They'd say, no, I'm going to wait for a bigger fight. I'm going to, not a bigger fight as far as danger, but a bigger fight as far as maybe a payday or, whatever it could be.
Benavidez talks about how he almost canceled the fight with Morel because there was no testing for weeks. He kept asking when testing would start, but they kept saying next week. Once he threatened to cancel, Vada showed up the next day. Benavidez also mentions that at the press conference, Morel seemed shocked when steroids were brought up, and his trainer quickly took the mic from him.
Testing 14 weeks out. Andrade, same 13, 14 weeks out, start testing. Because they wanted to test me because they said I was dirty, supposedly. Or if they thought I was doing cocaine or whatever it is. I tested, I did whatever. So then when I get this fight with David Morrell, we knew about it months before, like 4 months already. So I told them, I'm not asking stuff that hasn't been done, but when are we gonna get the test? They kept saying next week. Until I told them, I'm like, bro, well, how the f are we not testing when I heard that he takes steroids and, we're already on week 9, no testing. I told him, bro, I'm gonna cancel this whole fight.
Benavidez highlights how unusual it is that Morel wasn't tested regularly, especially with such a big fight coming up. He feels it's important to have proper testing for high-profile matches, and the lack of it raises suspicions.
When I was talking, when I brought up steroids and said what I just told you right now, Morel took his glasses off, in my opinion, in a form of shock. Like, oh, he just said that. And then Luis Cuba Sr. grabs the mic, gets up and starts yelling. And then after that, they left. That already, for me, if somebody tells me I'm taking steroids, I'm speaking up right away. Like, man, I'm not taking no steroid. What are you talking about? David Morrell didn't say shit. Luis Cuba Sr. took the microphone away from him, and he started talking for him. You know what I mean? I don't know what they were planning, or they have some sneaky shit going on, but they're not going to play that with me.
Benavidez points out that he's been tested over 30 times, but Morel hasn't been tested as thoroughly. He finds this suspicious and feels something is off, especially given the importance of the fight.
I'm getting tested every single week, but if I would have let it be, what if something would have happened and then on the 3rd week, oh, now it's bad at test, you know what I mean? And this is what these people do, bro. They take steroids in week 8, week 9. They train, that shit gets flushed, and by the time they get to week 3, they bring in the testers. Oh, now it's time to test when there's no steroids in there no more.
Morel's former opponent Sena Agbeko mentions that despite concerns about PEDs, Morel wasn't tested before their fight, while Sena was. He questions why Morel's team wasn't tested and why they didn't push for it, suggesting there may be something suspicious about it. He also mentions how the boxing system is flawed, with businessmen more focused on profits than fair competition.
There is some sort of sense of suspicion.
Of course. Yes, of course, there is a sense of suspicion because of, the thing is, even in the fight in Vegas, he had acne all on his back, on his face and everything. And Benavidez' father, Jose Benavidez, he was present when I fought Morel in Minnesota. So, of course, these were concerns that I brought up, I raised with, and he actually was in my corner, was in my locker room as well, because he had Valenzuela at the time fighting Chris Colbert. So we had, we really had a good time, a lot of time to really talk and, really get to know each other. And I brought up that issue at the time too. And I think that he's very well aware of what, being on enhancements can do for you. And that's why he's very much concerned. And
Morel addresses the accusations, not directly responding, but making it clear that he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't engage in the suspicion others have raised about him being a clean fighter.
They do because they haven't fought against anybody that's really at their level. And when they do end up about to face someone at their level, then they start to say things like that oh, the doping this or something else that's, you know, like beyond the pale.
David Morrell says he and his team don't make excuses. He thinks other fighters who haven't fought top-level guys make excuses when they face someone like him. They just can't handle the challenge.
The pale, and then because it's a no-lose situation for them, where if they lose, they say, oh, it's doping this, doping that. If they won, oh, I was just the better fighter. So I would just tell them, train as hard as you can, train strong, because, you know, that's all you're gonna be able to do against me. And in the end, the better fighter is gonna win.
Morrell says that when these fighters face real competition and lose, they blame it on things like doping, saying it's the reason they lost. But if they win, they just claim they were the better fighter. He sees it as a way for them to cover up for their lack of preparation or skill when facing someone on a higher level.
Lo que pasa con ellos es que toda su vida están adaptados a bucear a pelear con buceadores que no le exigen. Y cuando llega uno que verdaderamente le exige, pues la única excusa que tienen es esa, que si es doping, que si pasa esto, que si pasa lo otro. Igual que cuando tienen miedo también empiezan a sacar como que a buscar excusas de todos lados, como iremos en Cuba, poniendo el parche de que caiga la botera. Para en todo caso que pierdan, no, hay que hacerle prueba de doping, hay que hacerle prueba de esto. Si gano, no baneo porque soy el mejor. O sea, son estrategias que ya están pasadas de moda, pero bueno, nosotros no tenemos excusa.
Alex from Morel management team says that David Bennovitz is the only one who has tested positive for any substance out of the two fighters, adding some extra info to the conversation.
Out of the two fighters, the only one that's tested positive for any substance is David Bennovitz.
Alex talks about Bennovitz's experience, saying he's been fighting all over the world since he was 17, even sparring in Russia.
Experience part, this kid's been fighting all around the world. When David Bennovitz was 17, sparring as a teenager, he was fighting in Russia, he was fighting all around the world.
Dimitri Bivol isn't sure how the fight will go, but thinks it's an exciting matchup with Bennovitz having the edge. He wasn't fully aware of the heated face-off, but mentioned seeing clips of Morel's ability to fight well.
To be honest, I didn't see anything about this fight, but I know Bennovitz, I saw a couple of short clips of Morel, and it's an interesting fight. Yeah.
Stephen Edwards recently called Bennovitz a monster at 168 pounds, praising his power and agility. He pointed out that Bennovitz showed these traits in the ring against two of Edwards' top fighters.
He's way too big to be fighting 68 pounds. I've been around. He's a big guy, you know, so I'm very, very impressed with him. But a lot of the guys he's been fighting are so much smaller than he is where he doesn't have to go into his bag of tricks and rely on other things like his IQ and things like that.
Lorenzo Simpson talks about the timing of Morel versus Bennovitz, saying both need a big fight to boost their names. He points out that Bennovitz's style is all about constant pressure and fast, high-volume punches.
One of them fights that the fans deserve and boxing fans deserve.
Is this like an early version of like Better Beville, like catching them like 5-6 years earlier?
Yeah, only reason I feel like it's early because I feel like neither one, they both need the name. They both need the big fight, and it's not gonna happen no time soon. Like nobody else that they fight is gonna have a name. So them two is available. So I feel like they're doing the right thing.
Lonnie B thinks David Morel is really skilled, with great footwork, smooth offense, and solid punching power. He believes Morel's style could cause problems for David Bennovitz, mainly because Morel is faster and has good counterpunching, while Bennovitz depends more on his size and power to dominate.
Tough fight. David Morel is really good. He's really, really good. Yeah, he's good. I can't even. He's good. You know?
You're kind of giving me a face like you don't know who wins that fight.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh.
Because David Morel is big too. He's big for super middleweight too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's big. He can punch. He's slick. Real got that Cuban style. What he Cuban?
Yeah.
Like real slick.
But offensive with it.
Offensive with it. And those styles are tough for anybody to fight.
Lonnie B compares Bennovitz and Morel. He says Bennovitz uses his size to pressure but isn't as slick as Morel. Morel's style could be tough for Bennovitz because he's faster and can counter well.
Especially with David, with that style he got, David's really not slick. He just uses his size to wear guys down. He walk him down and he's so big, you hitting him, but you really can't get him good because he's too big. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? With David Morrell, he would really have to worry about some heat coming back being thrown at him, and David Morrell got real good feet. He got real good feet, so I think that would give David some trouble, and he can punch.
Sean Porter thinks Bennovitz has the edge over Morel due to his experience. Bennovitz is more accustomed to the 175-pound weight class, while Morel may not be as comfortable there. Porter's point is that Bennovitz's experience at this level gives him a clear advantage.
That's 50-50 right there. If anything, 55-45 for Bennovitz. I love David versus David. I love everything about the fight. The thing I feel that Bennovitz has over Morel is experience.
Moreover, Sean explains experience matters in a 12-round fight. Morel hasn't dealt with much resistance, but Bennovitz has. He knows how to handle tough moments, which gives him the advantage.
When you are in a competitive fight that's gonna go 12 rounds, of course you're prepared for the 12, but when you have had that experience of having resistance at different points in the fight, it's nothing new to you. Morel has not had resistance. His fight with Hot Rod, that was a different kind of resistance. That was the resistance of somebody staying away from you, you know what I mean? And him not being able to catch up to him. With Bennovitz can bang with him. He's just as fast, he can box with them. And that sort of resistance, it plays a mental game with you, and it becomes a roller coaster ride.
Tim Bradley believes Morel needs more experience. He wasn't impressed with Morel's last fight and thinks he's not ready for top-level competition. Bradley prefers Bennovitz because he can combine pressure and boxing effectively.
I think Morel still needs a little bit more seasoning, to be honest with you. I wasn't too fond of his last fight.
It's part of why I really was Bennovitz. Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't too fond. Bennovitz can do a little bit of everything. We only see him as being a pressure type of assassin type of guy, throwing quick combinations and really, just stepping on the gas and squashing guys. But, he can move and box if he wants to as well.
Caleb Plant breaks down Bennovitz and Morel's styles. He says Bennovitz is aggressive with solid combos, while Morel is more strategic. Plant's pumped for the fight, thinks the contrast in styles will make it exciting.
Their styles are different. Southpaw, right-handed, one puts their punches together very well. And so does David Morel, but he's a little more crafty. He's a little more maybe passive in his approach. I'll say that. And but that's a big fight. That's one I'm excited for. So.
Caleb Plant reflects on his fight with Bennovitz. He says he was giving him trouble early but gassed out, which let Bennovitz take control. Mentions boxing's unpredictable and the real story comes out in the ring. He's excited for Bennovitz versus Morel. Thinks it'll be a good fight.
That's the great thing about boxing is we're gonna find out, when the bell rings, and truth will come to light. So until then, it's a great fight on paper, and one that I'm excited for.
Do you see any similarities between you and David Morel?
I mean, we're both have good traps. We're both slick, slightly different, but we don't fight just alike. But there's some similarities and boxing ability there.
Is that a fight you're interested in the future? You and David Morel?
I mean, he's at 75, but, I'll welcome a fight with David Morel as well.
George Mosi points out Bennovitz fought as high as cruiserweight, but is dropping to 175 pounds. He thinks the natural size could give him an edge, but wonders if the weight cut will affect his speed, which is important. Mosi believes Bennovitz will adjust well and won't lose much speed.
I want to say Bennovitz because it's closer to his natural weight, but at the same time, will the speed be there? I think because that's one of his best attributes, the fact he let his hands go. Now, again, his natural weight, so he may feel just naturally more comfortable and we may not see any difference, you know what I mean? Well, the difference we saw in his last fight, I'm sorry, was that it seemed like he didn't take his power. But again, the dude he fought.
Mosi predicts if there's a stoppage in Bennovitz versus Morel, it'll be Bennovitz causing it. He says Morel's shown weaknesses and taken a lot of shots lately. While a stoppage would surprise him, Mosi still thinks it's possible given Morel's recent fights.
Bennovitz. I think it'll benefit him more.
Will it surprise you if that ends in a stoppage?
Morel and Bennovitz, if anybody stopped, I think Bennovitz may stop him, if anything. Because he was taking some shots. His last fight, Morel was taking a lot of shots. So, yes, it would surprise me. Yeah, it definitely will. You see my brain.
David Bennovitz talks about Morel, says he finishes quick but hasn't faced top-tier guys. He thinks his experience and conditioning will give him the edge. Plans to take the fight to the later rounds and outlast Morel. Confident his skills will be enough to win.
He's fought against people that are not really good. That's why he finishes them early. I fought with people that are experienced, veterans in the ring, and I finish them late. So that it's gonna be, you know, my experience versus, you know, his him just trying to go in there, you know, trying to score a quick knockout or whatever it is that his game plan is. I don't really know what he's gonna try to do, but I'm 100% focused, and I know that this fight is not gonna be easy. You know, it's probably gonna end in the later rounds. So my plan is to go in there and drown him in the deep waters.
Sergio Mora says Benavides' style is efficient, explosive, and fast. He compares him to Diego Corrales, saying he throws quick combos with little body movement. His long arms and narrow shoulders help him stay fast and throw a lot of punches in tight spaces, making him a tough matchup.
We're in front of you than most fighters because he doesn't have to rotate his entire body. He does it. If you notice, when you watch Benavides throws combinations, he's like a Diego Corrales, you know, he's like, I hear it, you know, instead of rotating. He's like, it's beautiful to see, but you can only do that because he has the stature, he has the long arms, and he has the short, you know, the thin shoulders, they're not that wide. And yeah, man, he's a specimen. I think beats Morel.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates. Hit the bell so you never miss a video. Catch you in the next one.